All right, here we are. Welcome to our Across the Pond Beer of the Week segment. We got our good buddy and cousin JT in all the way from Whitechapel, London, and he's got a few beers from over there for us to try out, rate, and we're excited to get into it. What's up, man? How you doing?
Not bad, man. Not bad. Thanks. I just started listening to your podcast, and I was like, it'd be cool to bring over some beers because there's a beer shop over there called Kill the Cat. Kill the Cat. It's on Brick Lane in Whitechapel, and I told this dude, I was like, I'll bring back some beers from Wisconsin for you to try. And he's like, oh, sweet. And I was like, my cousins do this Rate a Beer of the Week podcast. And they're like, oh, shit. So they gave me a bunch of recommendations on like different beers to give and so yeah, we'll try this one real quick. I'll just open it here.
Hell yeah. Cool. And beautiful. Which one is this?
This is called the Utopia Lager. And this is so in England, like instead of like Busch Light and Bud Light and that kind of stuff, or like light beers, what people do is they drink lagers or ales, like, and they drink sort of those are like you go into a bar and you're like, do you got a lager? And they'll be like, sure, and they'll say, yeah, we got. You don't even have to like ask what brand it is. They'll just give you their sort of British lager beer. So this is
okay.
So like looking at their website, this is Utopian Brewery in, I think it's in Southampton, which is in like the south of England, and they said. On the front of their website, they said their lager brewed to perfection. From our independent brewery in picturesque Devon, we brew in a traditional way, but with our own interpretations of classic styles, using only 100% British ingredients. So at Utopian Brewery, our mission is simple: to celebrate incredible British lager. So like, this is like. These guys are trying to do the best they can to recreate like the very classic "this is what you drink in an English pub." Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is the beer that you would drink. So.
All right. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Appreciate you bringing this over.
Yeah.
Can't wait to try it out. It's good. It's very good. That's really good. Yeah.
It's just.
I mean, it's beer.
It's just a beer flavored beer that you drink. You know what I mean? Like,
no, but that's super interesting. So they order by not brand of beer, but just style.
Well,
and whatever style or whatever brand that style is in that pub, that's what you get.
Sometimes the thing is like it's like what with. Like old guys will go in, like old men will walk into British pubs because they go to the same pub every week, and it's like their dive bar, but you can also eat there and stuff and that kind of stuff. So they go in and usually it's like, do you got a lager? And they're like, which lager is it? But there's only a couple of like, but pubs also, they used to be owned by breweries, so breweries owned pubs. So oftentimes like the Truman Brewery would own different pubs. So the beer that they had on tap was all Truman beer. So they have on pubs they'll say, you know, Stevenson's Free House, and a Free House is a pub that can have any brand. But for the tradition in England is that you are owned by a brewery, and that brewery then all the beer you have is from that brewery. So so then you just order style, because you wouldn't say like, I want the Utopian, because it's like, bro, all we have is Utopian.
Right.
You know,
okay.
Like, so,
Sure. Interesting. Okay,
yeah,
I like that.
And so now that the craft beer movement's like kicking off there, it's less that way. It's more like you order this, like, you know, there's different beers and there's a lot of craft brew pubs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's the tradition is like there was one brand in each pub unless you were a Free House.
Right. Okay. So yeah, because that I think is starting to take over a little bit here too. Just in terms of like most breweries now have like some sort of dining or food they do it. So like there's a bar that opened up a few years ago down the road from our house, and when I heard they didn't have food, but they were offered like seating for you to drink beer there, I was like, they don't offer food. You can just go and sit and drink, but they don't have food to offer. Like I thought that was weird, but because that's like now more of what I see. If there is a brewery that pops up like Copper State here in Green Bay, got great food, and like Titletown Brewery and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the tap rooms they've got like some sort of good food with it. Generally speaking, like it's not just a tasting room anymore.
Right.
That's not like really what they do.
Right.
But yeah, like, and the other thing, like we were talking about this the other day when we were hanging out, like like English pubs, like in the Middle Ages, and then moving into like the Victorian era and stuff. Like back when people didn't have good water and stuff, like they would drink really really weak beer that the pub would
Yeah.
make because they've boiled the water to make it right. They've done because you did the brewing process. Like
Yeah, this is actually super interesting. I wanted to talk to you about this and let you get because you were telling me all this yesterday at the party
yeah yeah
at
yeah
our grandfather's 90th birthday party.
yeah.
Shout out
Woo.
Grandpa.
Shout out Grandpa.
But yeah, you were telling me about like why the pubs are the way they are in England, which I thought was super interesting, and then about the beer process and why it was more widely drank than water was.
Yeah, or like you drink it because like if you just have water, like if you boil it and you go through to like purify water, you got to boil it, you got to do this whole thing, and so like that's part of brewing is like
Right.
you beer it, you boil it, you add some stuff to it, then you put it in a case. You put it in like a barrel to hold it so it doesn't get gross.
Right.
And so all of these beers and stuff, they would brew it, and then they'd have, instead of people drinking water at their houses, they would come to the pub because it's like we know that this like very very weak beer is going to be like clean.
More safe to drink than maybe the water is.
Yeah, and then also like in heating your home, obviously you either have to cut up peat bog, which is like this like whole thing, this like basically dried moss that you cut out.
Okay, yeah.
So you do that, or you get wood, which is expensive because usually the lord owned the woods, or you like burn
sure.
whatever, coal or whatever it is, but it's expensive. So like pubs were made to be like people's living rooms, so you could go there. You got good food, and it was like usually a roast dinner. You got roast dinner. You got beer that was cheap and weak, so that you could drink a lot of it, so you get hydrated, and then it was warm, so you didn't have to heat your house as much.
Right.
And so you'd spend all evening in a pub, so that like it was like a community, like it was like the community center for, and there were pubs on like every block, right? Like every block had like its own pub for a long time. So it wasn't like a place you go out to, like it was like, oh, this is where we meet all our friends. This is like our second home. Like that's where pub culture comes from in the UK, is that need to be warm and have clean water.
Yeah.
Right?
That's cool. That's so interesting. So our pubs over there still have that homey feel to them, or are they more commercialized now?
They are a little bit more commercialized, but like, so a lot of breweries own them, and they got commercialized. Like there's this pub called Weatherspoons. This guy, it's like the Denny. It's like if Denny's was a pub. That's like Weatherspoons is.
Okay.
It's just like the food's kind of gross. Like you eat it, you get like that stomach ache that you own. Not to disparage Denny's, but like you get that.
But
you get that
to disparage Denny's.
You get the Denny's stomach ache where you're like, this is the stomach ache I get when I eat Denny's. Like so you. So that you get that at Weatherspoons, but this dude, he's a total dickhead who owns the whole chain Weatherspoons.
Okay.
He named it Weatherspoons because he had a teacher named Mrs. Weatherspoon who said he would never amount to anything. So he named it after her to sort of like as a fuck you, right? Yeah. So it's like, but so there's big pubs like that. There's big chains, but now that people are all into like local, that kind of stuff, like the same as here. You're getting people who are like, okay, I really want like a little local place, and like, so pubs. There's this pub called the Pride of Spitalfields, which is near where I am, and it's like it literally is like it looks like Grandpa's living room, what Grandpa and Grandma's living room used to look like before they updated it with like remember? Do you remember the brown carpet that they had with like the like little shapes on it and stuff? Like that's like the wallpaper in that place.
Man.
Right? Yeah, it's like, and like they've got like chairs that are, they got like these wooden chairs and then like armchairs in the pub, and it's awesome. But it's like, you go there, you hang out. That's like what pub culture's like. And so like this is what you drink generally. This kind of lager is what you get.
It's really good. I'm a big fan of it. You wanna rate it? We'll do 1 to 10. Give it a rating.
Sure. I'm gonna say I would give this like, I'm giving this like a 7.5 because it's like a perfect, like I will drink this wherever it's given to me. I really like it. It's not gonna like blow my socks off. But it's also like, it's one of those things, if someone hands it to me, I'm like super happy. I buy a lot of these when I if I'm going out with friends and like we're going to a park or something, which we've been doing during COVID. It's like I want 4 of these and that's it. That's all I need.
I agree. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm gonna go just bit higher. I'm gonna go 7.62.
7.62.
Yeah,
All right, all
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. All right, hold. Let me jot some of this down here. Make sure.
Yep. Let me grab the.
All right, and that was Utopia. What was the name of that?
Utopian premium British lager.
Oh,
Utopian.
Utopian British lager. So the brewery is Utopian Brewery?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it's just the British lager.
Okay.
Utopian British lager.
Perfect.
I don't think you can. A lot of these I got specifically because you can't really get them here, right?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a British lager. I mean, if I guess I never I've never seen like a beer from over
From England,
from
yeah.
England, yeah.
They sometimes you can get London Pride here, but like London Pride is fucking terrible. Like, do not.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
terrible beer. It is not the Pride of London. I don't think it is anyway.
All right.
Oh shit! Is mine recording or is it just you? Yeah, it is. Okay,
Yeah, you're good.
great.
All right. So that was the Utopian. What are we going to now?
All right, so this is called May Provisions. It's the May Provisions series of Unity Brewery, and so this is called an EIPA. It's an East India Pale Ale. So these guys are a traditional English IPA brewed with heritage Chevalier barley and hopped with Challenger from Brookhouse hops. So the whole point of this beer is it's trying to replicate the type of beer that they would put on ships for the sailors between when they'd sail from England to India.
Oh,
which is where
okay, yeah.
and that's how IPAs started. So East India, the East India Trade Company was the first like mega corporation.
Okay.
And they owned like all the trade between England and India.
Okay.
Because obviously England had colonized
Right.
India for a long time, and so it's called the East India IPA. So it's or East India Pale Ale, and so they're trying to recreate like this super traditional style, like what it would originally have been like. Obviously, without like the bacteria and diseases that was probably in it, but
Yeah.
that's the reason they hopped it so much is so it didn't taste like shit when they got all the way around. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Pour the rest of that one in there for you.
Okay, yeah. So they're trying to not trying to recreate. I mean, I guess trying to recreate the beer that they would have shipped from England to India.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that they would drink on the ship for
On
the
the ship.
sailors. Yeah.
And it was extra hopped because
the hops made it so it didn't taste like shit when it got flat and gross.
okay.
So it was stronger, so that's where India Pale Ales come from, is that was originally there was just regular ales. They didn't have that much hops, but they realized if they put more hops in it, they could still give like old beer to these sailors because it didn't taste horrible.
Yeah. Interesting. See, more hops is more flavor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. This is very, like, piney. It's got, like, a very floral sort of...
Yeah. I like that.
Not too bitter, but pretty bitter. Like, got a...
Not too bitter, but pretty bitter.
Right. But like bittery, like very floral.
It has enough bitter where you taste it, but it doesn't linger. I feel like, and I always feel like that's a good. For me, I like that in an IPA or any type of beer where you get a little bit of that bitterness, but you're not overpowered by it. Your whole drink, your whole mouthful, or whatever you want to call it.
It doesn't feel like it's like overpoweringly bitter.
What was something? Oh, mouthfeel.
Yes.
Mouthfeel.
I was just gonna mention that.
One of the beers, I think the description had mouthfeel. So yeah, there is no bitterness throughout the whole mouth feel process.
Yeah. No, so when I worked at a brewery, that was a thing that they would talk about. They'd be like, they're like, "What's the mouth feel for this?" And I was like, "What does that mean?" They're like, "Is it syrupy? Is it like, does it taste like water, or like, does it feel like water? Is it like too bubbly? Like what? That's what it is. Like the whole like." So you talk about mouth
right.
feel.
Yeah, mouth. Yeah, okay. So yeah, this mouth feel is little bubbly and watery.
Yeah.
It's kind of like beer.
Right? Almost like it's beer. Exactly.
Yeah. So okay, have you worked in pubs in London?
Yeah, I've
worked in London pubs.
Yeah, I've worked in the service industry, in four cities now. In Madison, I worked at Ale Asylum.
Oh, we've had some beers from there. That's a good.
Yeah,
I like that place.
It's not bad. It's a good brewery. And then I worked in their like tap room. And then I did in Minneapolis. I worked. I think I worked in like a small restaurant in Minneapolis. I worked for a Palestinian guy in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So I made like Middle Eastern food in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Had this like old lady come in and she's like, "Is there spice in the food?" And I was like, "Well, this hummus has got some garlic." And she goes, "Oh, that would literally kill me." I was like, "Garlic?"
What?
She's like, "I'm 100% Norwegian. That would kill me." And I was like, "You gotta live your life, lady. Like, you gotta get garlic.
Garlic kills the Norwegians.
I guess.
All right.
They're all vampires."
Don't go to the Netherlands with cloves of garlic.
Yeah, that was really bizarre.
Crazy.
Worked there, and then I've worked in a pub in England. No tips. So if you're gonna work in the service industry in London, I would recommend not doing it because they don't. It doesn't pay well.
No tips.
No tips. So like,
wow.
you just get paid $9.50, right? Like
okay, sure. To get shit on all night.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. And oh god, I was there. So I work in the East End, right? I work in East London, where like it's like the Cockney, like, "You all right, governor?" Blah, blah.
Okay.
Oh god, I sounded like that's horrible. But anyway, but this lady comes up to me and I like, she's talking to me and it's a crowded bar.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You all right, love? Can I get blah 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 blah?" And I was like, one more time. And she's like, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I can't. And literally, like, I had to make her repeat this 5 times until my buddy walked over and he's like, "She wants a straight vodka on the rocks with like 2 shots." And I was like, not even a word of that. Like, didn't get the word shot, vodka, glass, rock, nothing.
I hate when I have to ask people multiple times to repeat them. I feel I feel so bad when I'm like, what? Huh? Little slower? And like the whole time they're just looking at you like, what? How do you not understand this? And it makes you feel dumb when you're like, you're the one not speaking correctly right now.
And also, like, I mean, coming to a new country where you're just like, "I'm sorry." Well, also, like, as an American, everybody assumes you're a loud idiot. Like, like, they sort of just assume you're dumb. And so, like, which I pride myself on being kind of a smart guy, so it kind of pisses me off a little bit. So, like, but so, the other thing is, like, this lady's like, I'm this American kid, like, sitting at her pub that she's come to for 100 years.
Sure.
And I'm, like, being like, "Lady, I can't understand your weird, wonky accent."
Yeah.
It's like, it'd be like someone coming to Wisconsin and being like, "Oh, it's like, ho ha, hee haw, what the fuck's wrong with you guys? I don't understand what the fuck you're saying." And
yeah. No, that's so true. Very true.
So I felt bad, but she was really sweet. Her and her husband are super nice. Really cool.
Do you still work there?
I'm probably going to start again.
Yeah.
Because I just switched jobs. But yeah, so I worked at a craft brewery or craft pub, essentially. Like, they have tons and tons of, like, we switch beers all the time every week.
Okay.
And, like, have a lot of, we get 1 beer a shift, which is cool. Get free beer shifts.
That's
to
not
try
bad.
lots of stuff. Yeah, it's not bad.
Do you prefer the London pubs to work at or the like Ale Asylum? Like
Ale Asylum, I made so much money.
Well, I guess you can't really compare because tips. Yeah, that's so true, so true. So yeah, I guess the London ones. Is there like they're different regions, like have different styles of people that you're like just kind of jive with more?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked the pub I worked at in London. I liked both, and same with working in. Also worked in the service industry in New York at a
Oh,
couple
yeah.
of places. Yeah, and
That had to be wild.
well, you either like I mean, there you make more money than God. Like I made in 5 hours at this jazz bar I worked at. I would work 5 hour shifts, like from get in to get out 5 hours. Like not even like a, I mean like I came downstairs, signed in. We started getting ready, got the bar ready. People came in. There were 2 sets of jazz. It was at 3 hours each. Everybody got out. You had an hour cleanup and counting your tips, and you were done, right? And so
Yeah.
like in and out 5 hours, $250 sometimes. Like I
Oh,
would
man. Jeez.
make so much money because like people, it was a $30 cover. People would tip you on the cover, and every cocktail was $16. Like, and so and it's a really famous jazz bar.
Okay.
So they're
yeah.
like, we're here for the experience, and we're gonna like just poop out money this
Yeah.
whole time, and that's fine with us because we know that's the deal.
Right. Oh yeah. When you're coming to this place, they know like it's not a place to be like, oh, how much is that drink? It's like
Yeah.
no, they know how much the drink is when they get there, and they're more than ready to pay it.
Well, it's like it's a 2-drink minimum, so everybody has to order 2 drinks.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and each drink is, a beer was $8, and so like, and that was the cheapest thing. You could get a Coke for $5, and then a beer was, and they're like, can you get water? It's like, do you want to pay for the water? Because you have
Yeah.
to have 2 drinks.
Yeah.
And,
Man.
and so they come in, and usually the people who would just get Coke were like jazz musicians who were just there to watch jazz. So I was just like, they're just like, I'm just trying to learn my craft, and they'd be friends with you, and they'd want you to be their friend, and so then they'd tip you pretty well, so that you were
okay.
like nice to them, gave them nice tables and
Right.
stuff. But also, so I'm like gee whiz Midwestern kid
Yeah.
in New York, and I'm all I just like I'm a nice guy. I talk to people, and so I'd be like, welcome to the Vanguard. My name's JT. So nice to meet you. Blah blah blah. And like my boss, the woman who owned it, who hired me, I walked down. She's like, she'd had a stroke, so she was like, was like, let me see, let me look at you, and I was like, okay, Lorraine, and she's like, okay, turn to the side, and I like turned my head, and then she just like ran her finger along my jawline, and then she just goes, okay, you can work here, and I was like. It's like a dirty old lady.
What? Oh man, New York is crazy.
It was well. So and then I was sitting there and I was like talking to this, and her daughter is like now runs it, and I was being like, "Hey, welcome to the Vanguard," blah blah blah, and she came over and she goes, "JT," and she's like just like New York Jewish accent. She's like, "Don't be nice to people." That's it's like you don't want me to be nice. She's like, "No, it's part of the experience. They want to be. You gotta be mean to them." And I was like, "You want me to be mean to customers?" She's like, "You don't be mean, but don't be nice." I was like, "Okay."
What does that mean?
It was just, but it was like,
yeah.
it's just it's like, this is your table. Put it down. Like, don't welcome people. Be off-putting. I got better tips though. Like
When you were mean?
when I was not nice to people, because you're playing the cool guy card because they think they got to get you to like them.
Oh,
And so-
okay,
but
okay.
That works is what I found in the Midwest. It doesn't work because the expectation is people are nice to you. But in New York, I found I got tipped a lot better when I was in most restaurants. I got tipped a lot better when I was mean to people, because then they think that they got to get you to like them.
Okay,
And so they tip you more.
That's interesting. Sometimes I feel like I don't think I could do it now, obviously, but sometimes I feel like I should have been like raised in New York. Like that's my personality. Is like I don't want to talk to you. Sit down at your table. I'll bring you drinks when you want them, and I'll bring you your check when you're done. Like, and then I'm out of here.
See, I think you would you do well there, because like it's not, New Yorkers are not mean. They just don't have time for you. Like they
Yeah.
don't care about, like, if you stop any New Yorker and ask them for directions, they're not gonna be like, "Come on, buddy, you fucking idiot." They're gonna be like, "All right, where you trying to get? All right, 2 blocks down, take a right on 15th, and then you'll see it. It's right there. This is the pizza place. Blah blah. Order this thing. It's really good. All right, I'll see you later." And,
Right.
like,
get out of my yeah.
yeah, but they're not, so they're like, if you ask them for a recommendation or something like that, they'll generally give it to you. They'll be nice people, but they're just like, they just don't have time.
There's no flowery bullshit. Like, what do you
No.
do? Oh, what do you want to try the pizza for? What?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
what's your
Have you seen
name?
Times Square
Where
yet?
are you from?
Yeah,
Blah,
none of
blah,
that
blah.
shit.
Oh,
Okay.
also, if any New Yorker says, "Have you seen Times Square yet?" They're not from there. They're not from there because they don't. Every time I had a friend. We were when I was first in New York. This guy's like, "Oh, I'm going to bring you this awesome deli because I was doing like a little acting program thing there, and he's like, my favorite deli, and he's like, we start walking. I'm like, this motherfucker is bringing us to Times Square, and we get into Times Square. He's like, this is the Europa Deli in Times Square. I was like, why on God's fucking earth would you bring us to Times Square for an hour fucking lunch with like 1.5 million people?
Oh,
yeah. Oh God, I wanted to murder him because I was like,
we don't have time for this. Is that what it was about?
We don't have time for this. Also, like Times Square sucks. It is the worst.
Yeah.
It's weird people dressed in like demented Elmo costumes and like who are like trying to get you to take a photo with them, and like
for money, basically.
Yeah, and like people hitting you up for comedy things. Bunch of advertise. It's just, dude. Times like go see it. Never again.
Right,
like that's
okay.
what you go there for 30 minutes. Like look at it, be like, oh, it's nice and shiny, just like in the
Right.
movies, and then fucking leave. Like do not like.
Okay.
It's terrible.
That doesn't sound great. Okay, yeah, I get it. What was gonna be? How long did you live in New York for again? Like
4 years.
4 years, man.
Yeah, so I did a 3-year acting school conservatory there, and I lived there about like the 3.5. So I guess it was 3.5 years because I lived about the 4 months prior and 4 months after.
Did you do any stand up in New York?
I didn't. I never did stand up in New York. I went to Cincinnati, Ohio, and I started doing stand up in Cincinnati.
Okay, yeah, because you went out there and you were doing shows out in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
right?
I was doing plays in Cincinnati for the Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park, which is like a regional theater out there.
And then you'd also do some stand up.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do you think you went up and did?
I like 5. I went
times?
up. Yeah, so like not a ton because I didn't have a ton of time, but like
Right.
And I did it in bars. Like I didn't do it in comedy clubs. Like I did it in places like little open mic nights where people would do other stuff too. But there was comedians, there was like guitar players and stuff.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about that was it was really low pressure because if you were doing bad, people just went back to drinking. Like nobody was there to heckle you or anything like that and that kind of stuff. So, but I will say on most open mic nights I've ever seen where it's like people who are brand new to stand up, nobody's really that mean because everybody knows that's the deal.
Right. No, absolutely. And that's one of the things Carl and I we wanted to try stand up, right? But the local bar that kind of did the shows that you were just talking about, like a little bit of everything, guitar, improv, stand up, poetry, whatever, just open mics in general to anything. It shut down for the remodeling, so
Oh, okay.
So we could actually, hold ourselves accountable and do the stand-up once a week. We'd have to drive to Appleton, and we definitely could do that, and we're bitching out a little bit. But,
you gotta do it, man.
You
gotta.
But that's like what we envisioned kind of was doing open mics like that. So it made me, so hearing you say, like, you never went to an actual, like, specific just comedy club.
Yeah.
Because that's where we would be going, specific, it's only comedy. And yeah, obviously, I would want to try it, but yeah, I don't know, something.
But the thing is, like, man, so I did it. So I did a really long joke. The biggest thing that I realized when I was doing it is that, like, the setups, everybody can write good setups. What you're trying to do is write good punchlines. So, like, the setup. So I talked about being Catholic, right, and how like I wore a robe. So I tried one joke, and I was like, and I kind of stole a little bit of a bit from Mike Birbiglia just to get like a little thing where he's like, I was Catholic, nothing happened. And so I didn't do it that way, obviously, but it's like a joke everybody knows because like we were both raised Catholic.
Yep.
Nothing ever happened to me. I don't think anything ever happened to you.
Right.
Right. So I was Catholic. I was an altar boy. It was totally fine, surprisingly. That kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
And so that got a little bit of laugh. And then I remember I remember talking about how they always made you wear the robes like super low when you were altar boys. Like they made sure that like you couldn't see your shoes and stuff. They wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I said they made me wear the robe super low because apparently God also hates sneakers, and nobody laughed at that. And I thought that was funny, but nobody laughed at that.
Okay.
And so, but then I did this other setup about I don't know if you're ever an altar boy, but like they give you this like cross, and it's always like super heavy because it's made out of like steel and glass, right? And it's a giant. And you're walking down an aisle, and the people who are in the center aisle at church are like exclusively old
The
people.
oldest, yeah.
Yeah, because they're like, this is my day. I'm getting to church.
Yep.
It's like 100% gotta get here. And so you're walking down this fucking aisle with like basically a glass battle axe, like, and you're with like wearing long ass.
It's usually a 12-year-old
Right.
carrying it.
Exactly, and you're like, and it's like with the long fucking robe that you're
Yeah.
gonna trip over. It's like you're gonna fucking axe grandma on the head. And I remember, and I had a joke about something else, and then I remember. And so the one joke that got a huge laugh was I looked up and I was like, and that's when you need Jesus, is when your like arms are shaking, you're a little 12-year-old and you're about to murder somebody's grandma. And I'm looking up at Jesus up on the cross and I'm thinking, God, you starved on the cross for 3 days and your abs look so much better than mine do. And that got a big laugh. But like,
Yeah.
I spent a bunch of time doing, so that's like 4 jokes, right? That's
Right.
like 4 jokes, and but I did a bunch of setup for like way more setup for all those.
Okay.
And so it was like I'd done 4 jokes, and that was like one of my better like little sets, right?
Okay.
But as I'm doing, because I'm trying to do comedy in London now, I was just about to start doing stand up in London before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, you want to eliminate the space between those jokes as much as possible, right?
Okay.
Because you want people to laugh like every 12 seconds, something like that.
Okay.
And it's not that you can't tell stories, it's just that you have to be aware of like where you're going to mine comedy out of each little bit of the story.
Sure.
So like before we were talking about something you wanted to do about, and the setup, the premise of the joke is great, that an old friend reaching out to you on Facebook is worse than an ex reaching out to you on Facebook.
Right.
Right, because the obvious joke is like, because at least with an ex it might get messy. You could just accidentally have sex and then it's fine.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
everybody's there.
Exactly. You might actually, if you're in a dry spell, get laid by an ex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a dry spell with a buddy, it's just also sad.
Right. It's just also, well, maybe I could get a job reference out of this or something like that. Like, I could put him down on a resume.
Yeah.
Like, like.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
like, and but the specificity of the jokes, and then also just knowing like you want one every 12 seconds and you want your best one to be at the end. That's why that
Okay.
set worked. Not always, but I mean, these aren't hard and fast rules, but what I found is that set worked because I had 4 jokes in maybe, even 2 minutes, and
Sure.
and my last joke was the best one.
Okay.
Right? And then I was thinking about other ways. I know I was trying to use that as, because they have that whole thing is like, I thought of another joke to set up that last one, which was, because I wanted to say, Jesus, you started on the cross for 3 days, and I realized that it's true, abs are made in the kitchen. But then I had to,
Yeah. Okay.
but then my joke would have to be like, earlier you want to have a small joke where it's like, it's like abs are made in the kitchen, but so is beer bread, so that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. Like,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I couldn't think of like enough setup or interesting. That's just a one-liner, and I don't have enough around that to
Okay.
like put it in, and so because I'm not a one-liner, I don't want to be a one-liner comedian. That's not what I
Right.
wanted to do. I wanted to sort of tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. It's just like you're talking about your stand-up and stuff, and I think the thing you got to realize is that it's a lot more. It's not about being necessary. It is a lot about being funny and having timing and having interesting, like, weird, random thoughts about stuff. But equally, it's about like writing it down, not so that you have to memorize it word for word, but writing that set down so you can be like, okay, what can I get rid of in here to make this faster, to make this a little bit punchier, right? To make these jokes a little bit easier, right? Or they come
Sure.
faster, and so kind of what you're doing, right?
So yeah, so if you have like a longer story, there should be like little jokes throughout of it to kind
Yeah.
of keep it moving along and keep things funny.
Yeah.
And then even in between that, make sure that it's succinct and like there's not a bunch of like
Like setup in between.
yeah, or just like, oh yeah, so this like yeah, so okay, so 2 years ago when I was doing this, right? So that leads me back to what I'm talking about right now.
Exactly.
And then so 2 years ago, now 2 years later after that, and then you're talking to your buddy and it's like, get rid of all that shit and just be like, I'm talking to an old friend.
Yeah.
And like it's that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like you're saying, like you're talking about that story where the dude messages you about Optimum, and it's like it's like, hey, a guy messaged me on Facebook. I used to work with him 2 years ago. He said, "Hey, buddy, you still working at Optimum?"
Yeah.
Like, yes, it
Right.
says so on my Facebook. You know, that's like 100%. Like,
Right.
why would you not know that, right, or whatever? Like, however you make that into a joke, but it's like you got maybe 5 seconds of talking before your first joke, or like 10 seconds of talking, joke, 10 seconds of talking, joke.
Okay.
10,
Sure.
and these aren't hard and fast rules. You can break them a lot of the
Right.
time, but it's that. But the other thing too about it is like you were talking about like nerves and stuff like that.
Yeah.
With performing especially, I found this with acting as well. A lot of the times, the hardest thing about stand up is it's just you, right? It's
Mhm.
just you, and it's your stories and it's your material that you wrote. But when you write it down and you have these sort of ideas and you're sort of treating it sort of like a writing exercise, then when people don't laugh, it's not so much that you aren't funny, it's just that that joke didn't work. You wrote it down and you tried it. So it's not that you're up there trying to just be extemporaneously, like off the dome funny. It's like I tried this joke and this joke didn't work.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like
It does. Also, timeout. I need to use that word extemporaneous. That's going to be Carl's next Carl versus the dictionary word. I got to write that down here. Hold on. What was that word?
Extemporaneous. It means it literally means off the dome. So like it. I'll look it up really fast. It's extemporaneous is. Yeah, extemporaneous is like improvised, so it means spoken or done without preparation. So it means like so off so off the dome, like off the top of the head.
Okay.
That's literally what it means.
It's going to be his E word. We'll have D is coming up this week.
That's great. Oh, that's awesome.
All right, so anyway, talking about stand-up, extemporaneous. Yeah, so it's just you up there, and it's you off. It's not quite off the top of the dome, but like. And
it's never off the top of the dome.
If a joke doesn't
usually
work, you can go back and like rewrite it.
Yeah, you.
So do you? Because I've also heard comedians talk about this, where they'll be like, they think they have a joke and they've done it like 3 or 4 times, and it just never worked. So they're like, all right, I'm done with it. So I guess like obviously for a rookie, I'm not gonna be like, what am I trying? Like, what do you think would be like a good like? All right, it's actually not funny. It's not even that it's not written well. My thought here is just not a funny thought. Like, what do you think about like how long would you give that process?
So you listen to a lot of comedy, right? Like you're you're a stand-up fan, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
So like one thing I remember, Ira Glass, who has made This American Life, he has this whole bit about how like the reason you get into an art form a lot of the time is because you have good taste and you like know what's good and you're like, I think I could make something good if I, but this is what I like. I want to make something like this person, right?
Okay.
And not exactly like an homage or anything, but you're just like, I want to be as good as this person.
Sure.
And ultimately what keeps you in the game is realizing that like you have good taste in comedy. Like your taste in comedy is worthwhile. So like I would say the biggest thing is to be with any art, because I write plays as well. The biggest thing is like you write plays or write comedy that you think is funny, and be judicious about it. Like don't be like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like don't write stand up to write stand up. Write stand up because you think it is funny. Like and if somebody did it for you, like so if you gave that material to John Mulaney or you gave that material to Artie Lang or something, you're like, hey man, I got a premise for a joke for you. I think it would be cool if you talked about this because I think that's weird.
Yeah.
And they were like, cool. And they went, awesome. Yeah, I'll try that. And that idea is funny to you. Like I find Catholicism super funny. Like I just, cause like we were in it all the time. You went to Catholic school. Yep. I did not, but like so I find that funny cause it's like, it's fucking weird. The whole Jesus thing is really strange.
Yeah.
Like the whole like, and so like, it's kind of dark. It's a little weird, but like to deal with it, I like laugh about it. And I think, and the same with like, big issues and stuff like that I'm worried about, like, like, so for example, I had a joke like about QAnon where it was like, because they believe that Joe Biden and like Hillary Clinton are harvesting like adrenochrome, which is like adrenaline,
Yeah.
from children to like make themselves like live longer. And my
Yeah.
whole bit was like, don't you think they would look better
Right. Yeah.
than they do now?
Yeah.
Joe Biden looks like 1,000. Like,
Yeah.
why would you, if he's like at a certain point, stop harvesting children's adrenaline because it's not
That's
fucking
not
working.
working,
Like,
yeah.
get a face cream. Like,
Get what was Sandra Bullock was getting, like she would like get micro like punctures in her face and then would like inject like foreskin cells into her face. Yeah.
but do that.
Yeah,
Like,
do that.
Because this shit is not working.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was like, but that's because I find that stuff, like the fact that people believe that really worries me. It like freaks out. So
Right.
but that's what I use comedy for. I use comedy generally if I have a panic attack or something. I'll like
Okay.
I'll watch stand up because it just makes me okay. Like I'll watch
Yeah.
stand up on Instagram like in the middle of the night so that I calm down.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
But also like I'm not good at this. I'm not a good joke writer, that sort of thing. I'm not and so like I've written jokes before. I'm like, that's kind of funny, but like write down stuff that you laugh to yourself about, like
Okay.
out loud, like, or like you think about it and it makes you like laugh, or like, like just using the example of the thing you were talking about where you're like, this dude sends you a thing and like I imagine that moment you get that text and you're just like, why like, you
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean, or
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
like, it's and it's that moment of like, you can, I guess you like recreate on stage or whatever, where you're just like, this dude sends me a text and I'm just, or a coworker sends me a text like, you still working at Optimum, what's up? It's like,
I wish this was an ex. I wish this was not him. Right. I would anybody but this conversation I would take over right now. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like what, and it's like, but so then you go deeper, like why is this the worst conversation? Like,
Sure. You keep
what
breaking it down.
but what happens? Like, why is it funny? Like, but seriously, like start right now. Like, what makes it awkward? Like, why is that weird?
Right. It's an unnecessary conversation. It's just like it's random to the point of like it's nonsense. But it's just
It's also the only thing he knows about you is that you worked at this place together.
yeah.
And
It's all he knows.
it's also a place that you don't like to work.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, hey man, you still working at
And
the
he didn't like
brewery?
it either. It's not like it was we were like, dude, I fucking love this job. I'm so bummed you're leaving, bro. Like, 'cause yeah.
But he could also just have started off with like, hey man, remember how much Optimum sucked? Like that was,
Yeah,
but he didn't do
something.
that. He didn't do that. He just gave like, hey,
No, sup with you.
Right.
Still working at Optum? Yeah. it's like-
exactly. It's,
yeah.
and you break that down. It's like, hello, I remember that thing we did, right?
Right.
Like, or whatever. It's just like, there's nothing to
Remember
that.
when we would occasionally cross paths a couple times a week in an office in a brick building with blue screens in front of us?
Right,
Like,
exactly.
you remember those times?
Right.
Sure do, buddy. Like, still doing it, man.
Still there, as it says on my LinkedIn.
Yeah, on
like,
any social media platform that you see me all the time on.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like one of the things is like there are things that in your head you think are funny, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the fear, I guess, or putting yourself out there, saying, because when you go up on stage and you say you're doing a routine, like this is what you think is funny,
Yeah.
and it's putting yourself out there saying, I hope other people think it's funny, and then if you don't, or if you just, it's like that's just facing rejection essentially is
Yeah.
what it is, right? Like
Yeah.
being rejected, like, nope, that wasn't funny, or try again, and it's like, I don't want to try again.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, but that's the thing too, is that's why you write it down and you make it a joke, because then it's not like Max is not funny, my life is not funny. It's like you wouldn't go into a, if you're a plumber, you don't go into like the thing, you're like, I've never plumbed before, I've never done this. Plumbed, I don't know if that's
I've never plumbed a pipe before.
Exactly. But you walk in, you're like, I saw a couple YouTube videos. There's this plumber I really like. His name is Ass Crack Steve.
Right, yeah.
And I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go fucking like fix a pipe. And I got the tool. I bought it. I'm ready to go. And if you fucked up, you wouldn't be like, "Hey man, don't ever do that again. You're a piece of shit." Like plumbing, like comedy is a craft that you have to work on. Like writing jokes is it's not a science. It's an art, but it's like you got to work on it. It's a thing you got to work on. So part of not being part of writing stand up or writing a play or being in a play a lot of times, like or going to an audition is just like. There's only so much you can control. So maybe the person who thinks your comedy is the funniest thing on earth, they're going to be there and you're going to do really well your first night. Like maybe you're going to go there and it's going to be people who just don't like what you're bringing to the table, and they might, different audience might like it. So it's like you got to write the jokes down to say, okay, on this night it worked and this is what worked and this is where the laugh was in that joke, and like so maybe I hold a space there for a second when I'm thinking about it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, 'cause like if you watch really good comedians, like they know where to pause, they know where their jokes are. And sometimes they know that like if they hold it for, so like for your Optimum thing, it's like, he's like, yo, what's up? You still work at Optimum? And then you're holding for a second 'cause people laugh and you're like, and they laugh for a second and you're like, what's that even for? You know what I
like, no, that's literally all he said to me.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing more. There's nothing. Yeah.
But even with that sort of, it's literally all he said to me. So this is a very inappropriate non-PC joke, but it's a perfect joke, and Bill Burr talks about it.
Yeah.
And it was at a beer. It was at a bar, and it said, "We like our beer like we like our violence, domestic." And it's a horrible joke, right? It's like or it's a joke that certainly is going to make some people very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, just from a pure joke standpoint, you need every fucking word of that joke.
Right.
So literally that's all he said to me. You could say literally that's it. Like that's three words instead of 6.
Cut it down. Yeah.
And sometimes you want longer stuff, but it's not a science, right? It's an art form, but it's like eliminate. Because you don't, with comedy and doing comedy I've done mostly scripted comedy, but I'm very good at scripted comedy.
Okay, yeah.
Done a lot of comedy plays, and I'm very good at them.
Yeah.
The audience cannot be ahead of you. Like, you don't want them to be ahead of you.
Okay.
Right? You don't want them to figure out your joke before you're done with it.
Right.
But you also don't want them to not know where you are. So you need enough words to keep them with you, but not ahead of you.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Sure. Man, yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, because that I'm trying to think of. I haven't gone to many like comedy shows. I've been to. Have you ever seen or heard of the show Kill Tony?
No.
It's
oh yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Yeah. So the dude, Tony Hinchcliffe, he just sets up. He has a bucket. People put their name in, and they get their name called. They go up for a minute, and then they basically just roast the person. Or if they're really good, they'll talk to them, be like, "Holy shit, you're really good. Here's some pointers," or, just random stuff like that. And I went to one. They came to Appleton.
Yeah.
And I went and saw them at Skyline.
Yeah.
I can't remember where I was going with this, but and then I've seen Mark Norman at the same place at Skyline.
Yeah.
And so I've only seen those two acts. So I don't like, as far as like knowing where the comedian is going. I'm trying to think. I don't really know what I was trying to say, but it's like I get what you're saying. Because like I was trying to think while I was talking, and that didn't work because I was trying to think of like the Mark Norman, and there was like some instances where where he was going, right?
Right.
And and I wasn't trying to say funny or not funny. It was more of just like thinking out loud because like it was. I think the one that came to my mind, he had like a Kobe Bryant joke or something, and
Yeah,
it's like
sure.
obviously it's like you could tell he was going there.
Yeah.
There was something about a helicopter, and you're like, oh, he might say something about, and it's like, oh, he did, and then but you still laugh because it was the way the joke in itself. It was like, oh, I didn't expect him to do that type of Kobe. I was expecting a Kobe joke, but not that one. Like that was the last
exactly.
joke. So yeah, it's like I totally get that like feeling of okay, you can't let him. Yeah, I guess what I was getting at was that like I get what you're saying in terms of that and trying to give a few examples. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. I'm not so much like I don't know. Like, were you more nervous for a play or for doing stand up?
100%
Yeah,
stand up because
'cause you didn't have anyone around you to.
well, and I trained to do plays like
Sure,
so I
sure,
did you know I did a bunch of plays in college and then we also did like school plays and so when I did professional plays it was just like oh this is just like something I've already done a lot and so
Right.
with stand up is hard because it's like the only way to do it is to bomb like the only way to do it is to get up and be like
you
is
can't
this
practice.
no,
like,
you really can't. And you can do it with like you can get like so you could get like our family together and like just tell some jokes. They're gonna laugh. You know,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a sympathetic audience. But like, you know, and it's good to have that practice of getting up in front of somebody and talking. But like, the biggest thing is like, I think with anything, but especially stand up, you get up, you want to know what your intention is. You want to get up and be like, you're like, I'm trying these jokes out. And I've practiced so that
sure.
and not practice so you've totally memorized it word for word, but you're like you get up and you're like I know what the ideas are. I know how I'm gonna how I'm gonna say them, where I think the joke is, and so that you can, so that it sounds like it's extemporaneous, like off the fucking dome.
I that kind of makes sense because like you know that the ping pong ball joke, right?
Yes, I think so. Is it about a girl shooting a ping pong ball out of?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, 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 no. That sounds like a good one though. I don't want to hear that one. No, it's about a kid who every year of his birthday, he's got an extremely rich father. Every year, all he asks his dad is 10,000 ping pong balls for his birthday. So like the whole joke is you go through.
Yeah. Let's try one more of these here, quick.
So the whole joke is you go through like almost every year of a kid's life or every major birthday, right? Like he turned 10 years old, double-digit years, and father's all excited, and he asks the kid what he wants, and the kid's like 10,000 ping pong balls.
Yeah.
Okay, he's 16, he could get a car now, and what do you want? I'll buy you a dealership. I'll buy you a car for every day of the week. What? Blah blah blah. 10,000 ping pong balls, and then you go through a whole person's life basically, and then you get to where he's 45 and he has cancer.
Yeah.
And the dad is still alive. The kid's about to die. He's on his deathbed. And he tells the dad to come closer. He's going to tell him what these ping pong balls were for this whole time. Because the dad's like, dude, you're on your deathbed. Can you at least tell me? And he's like, all right, come closer. And then the kid dies.
Yeah.
And that's the joke, right? So, like, I've told that joke not 100, but I've multiple times. So, like, I know, like, okay, these are the big birthdays you got to hit. Like, these are, like, the type of, cars, like, big thing. Like, go to Vegas for 21st birthday.
Yes.
Like, there's certain topics you just hit for each birthday or whatever. So it's, like, kind of that whole thing where you've done a joke so many times that you get to a point where like, okay, I can rant here, but I got to speed it up here. Or things like that.
And you also know that you need so specifics also. So like you pick 16 because 16 is when you get your driver's license. That's
right.
And so it's car when you're 16 because people know that.
Right.
Vegas when you're 21 because that's and also 16, 21. You don't pick 15, 14, and 12.
Right,
you pick
random ass.
Yeah, you pick specific birthdays where it's like this is a milestone and this is what you get at that milestone, right? So like that's why you pick those birthdays. Or like 40, it's like would you
yeah,
it's like do you at least want black ping pong balls or something, or whatever, because like they do the black balloons or whatever.
Oh
and even that's a little like too much of a little much of a reach, but like so
but
it's like
sorry.
no, it's just it's super specific, like. And the same with writing, because I've written more plays than I've done stand-up. So, like,
okay,
it's you're writing, you want it to be as specific as possible, right?
Sure.
Because I don't know if you ever listened to the Ryan Russillo show. Like, he was, is a podcast. He was talking to a comedian, and he was trying to tell this joke to this comedian, and the comedian, first of all, he's like, hey, I got some ideas for you. Like, can you just? And he's like, comedian's like, okay. And he's like, so you're not excited? He's like, no, I'm not excited. Like, he's like, is this gonna be bad? He's like, yeah, probably. And so he says this joke, but it was like this girl did something really specific, like going on a dude's Facebook to look up like the number of dogs people had or something like that, like some really weird kind of specific creepy thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, that is funny because it's like super weird. I can imagine it, and it's like very specific, right? So
Okay.
it's like, the funny things about your text is like this dude texted you about working in an insurance job that you both hated,
Yeah.
but nothing else, and not about it, not around it. And then it's like the X thing. It's like in these two things compared to each other. Specifically, if he was an ex, like I could text him back, like if he was an ex, that's like an excuse to talk to you so that maybe you could get together and fuck, right? Like
Right.
that's then it's an excuse text. But if it's from a friend, it's like, what is it for?
Yeah.
Like,
God, I thought I got rid of you
Right.
2 years ago, guy.
Exactly. It's like
I didn't like you then, and I don't like you now.
And it's like we weren't friends before.
Yeah.
All we did was work at a shitty insurance
Yeah.
place, and
Like heated our meals up at the same time.
right. Are you gonna ask me for workout tips? Like, why are you messaging me? Right. So like, and so it's like you're trying to find what's specifically funny about that, and it's it's a different thing. But anyway, let's do this beer really fast.
Yeah, and I asked to go to the bathroom real
oh yeah,
quick.
do it. Max is going to the bathroom, so I'm gonna be like very quiet and sort of say some weird stuff into the microphone. Hello. Oh shit. Did the computer freeze? Okay, cool. I can still be heard. But I'm just gonna talk like very quietly. Oh shit, we've been going for an hour. Probably should stop soon. Okay, that's fine. Everything's fine. The toilet just flushed. I think he's coming back. Alright, audience members, it's just you and me. Max, if you're listening to this. Alright, so this Augustiner Brew. So this brewery here. I gotta wait for you to get the thing back on.
No, we're good. We're good. My bladder is the size of a pea, and it is my kryptonite. All right, so now we are on to a new beer here. Our third beer of our foreign beer of the week segment, beer from across the pond segment, whatever you want to call it. JT's beer of the week, anything like that. And getting into the third one here, oh boy, you can feel the London beer flowing through my veins, mate. That's Australian.
That was pretty Australian, yeah.
Cheerio, governor. There we go. Now we're back.
So this is called Edelstoff Export Beer. So this is a beer that they make to send to England.
Okay.
Partially because I think it's kind of tastes like English lager, but this is from Augustiner Brau, which is a brewery in Munich, Germany, that was established in 1328, and it is
Whoa.
Munich's oldest independent brewery.
Whoa!
And so this beer is like, I think this Edelstiff, this is an export that they send specifically, I think, to England and around. And then the other beer that we have from them is a Fest beer, which is their Oktoberfest, and it is one of the sort of Augustiner. So according to their Wikipedia page, Augustiner Brau operates in a beer tent at the Oktoberfest, as well as owning Munich's largest beer garden, the Augustiner Keller at Ocean 52 at several traditional bars throughout the city. So they own a massive beer garden in Munich, Germany.
Whoa.
And they're a huge, super old brewery.
I'm digging the bottle. So like also just the bottle style is way different than American bottles.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was another one you brought where it was like almost a perfect cylinder, and then it just basically another smaller cylinder on top of it.
Yeah.
It was a very strange looking bottle, but yeah. And then also just like I mean, I don't know in over across over the pond over there, but when you're going through when you're going through the old local grocery store looking for a nice cold brew, you see a bunch of different crazy like logos and beer. Is it, or are they all kind of old school, similar to this kind?
So I think I think part of the reason it's old school is because it's just like that's its brand, because it's like we're a super old
it's
brewery.
from 1328. I mean, that's, man.
It's
wow.
fucking older than America by a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Well, I mean, America was here. It didn't go
yeah,
anywhere.
yeah.
It
You're
just
right.
appeared.
It wasn't
no,
right.
yeah, no, I get it.
You're definitely right, though. There's definitely this. Well, I mean, there's,
No, yeah, I know what you meant. I just give you shit.
but see, it's good. You keep me honest, because
Yeah.
there's that whole sort of attitude that people have where they're like, "Remember when Columbus discovered America? It's like discovered from there's people here,
Right.
man." Like,
Remember when he just sailed over? He was. I don't really know how you would describe it, but it was here.
would be like if
He
I
reported it. The first reporter,
Exactly.
American,
or the first like Western person to go there. I remember, but the thing is, like, bro, if I came to your house and I was like, "Hey, I discovered this," and you're like,
It's like, oh, right.
"It's like I live here, man." Like, what are you talking about?
Get on Facebook Live. Look at this house I found, everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, these dudes like, dude, just because I'm not on your Facebook page doesn't mean that this house isn't here
It's
all
like,
the time.
It's mine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely that weird.
Also, we forgot to rate the EIPA.
Oh, shit. Yeah,
the
yeah.
East India Pale Ale. I'll go first with that one. So the first beer we did I did a 7.62. The East India Pale Ale, I'm gonna give it a 7 point, still a 7. Get over set you when you get to the 8s to 10s, you know, that's a whole new ball game.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could go higher. I don't know if I could get into the 8s, but I'm gonna go like 7.71.
Yeah. So like that's where I think the world is filled with pretty garbage IPAs. So I think like there's so many IPAs that are just garbage, and I think that was like really drinkable, like good bitter.
Yeah.
Like nice, like floral taste. So I'm gonna say like I was right with you. I was like at a 7.75, 7.6. That's
Okay.
where I was at.
Okay. Yeah, and also I just like the fact that they're trying to recreate a beer that they used to sail from England to India. I just like that the history behind it. So yeah, I thought that was cool. And now
Yeah.
we've got the oh man, Augustiner Braumunchen Edelstaff.
Yep.
Aye, you can find it at your local grocery store down there. Hey, I can pour a few brews out. You know what I'm saying? You know, cheese curd to do with it. Pretty damn good.
Well, that's like, so this Munich area is like part of the place that like a lot of Germans who came to the States, like a lot of the beer brewing in Wisconsin is like based on German brewing. So
Sure,
like,
yeah.
so big, like, well, anyway, like this tastes a lot like the lager, right?
Yeah,
Like,
this
very
is
similar.
very, very similar. I was going to say it's going to get about, you know,
It's good. Like it's just
it's a good, like very, very smooth.
Yep.
It tastes like a light beer, but it's the mouth feel
Yeah.
is a little heavier. Like
Yes.
it doesn't feel like watery like
Yeah.
a Busch Light or a Bud Light, but it doesn't have the overpowering hops or overpowering maltiness or bitterness. It's just a smooth, slightly thicker light beer to me.
Yeah, it's like a full calorie beer that you can drink a lot of, right? Like
Full calorie. That's one we
Yeah.
haven't used on the show before. Full calorie.
Well-
Whoa, I gotta write that down.
So,
Full calorie.
it's funny because like Tigany, my wife, who's English, she like light beer really isn't a thing. Like in Europe, it just
Okay.
it's not real. Like there's Coors Light, but the light beer is almost exclusively American, and all of the beers that people drink that are light beers in the UK are American beers. So
Okay.
there's no British light beers. They're all light beers are made in America.
Okay.
And so I was talking to my Tigany about it, and she's like, why would you drink a light beer? Like, why would you drink a beer with less alcohol? And I was like, whoa. There's plenty of alcohol in light beer. There's
Right.
just less like flavor stuff in it.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, so it's like, I was like, it's low calorie alcohol. And she's like, Oh, so it's like drinking Diet Pepsi. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
not as good, but like still gets you there.
And
Like, you know.
the other thing, the hangovers usually aren't as bad on a lighter beer.
Oh, do you find that?
To me personally, I don't know if I don't know if that's the appeal to everyone, but like if I drink, say I drink 6 Spotted Cows or 6 Bush Lights,
Oh, okay.
the next morning on 6 Spotted Cows is going to be different than on 6 Bush Lights.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. I guess I've never really thought about that. I also haven't drank a lot of like light beer in a long time.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. No doubt.
But to be fair, like you look a lot better than I do. So like,
Well,
there's like a
yeah. I mean, well, but also I don't really drink like a ton during the week. Yeah. So alcohol is one of those things where like if you like there was a time when I would drink a couple beers every night
yeah.
and like then beer affected me differently, right? If after
Yeah,
drinking
sure.
just a couple every nothing more than 3 ever.
Yeah.
But you drink 2 beers a night, for a month, you're going to be able to throw some beers back like
Yeah.
one day of the week you'll be able to just knock them down
Yeah,
and not feel it as much.
Yeah.
So I definitely get that. And do you drink pretty much every night over there?
No, God, no. But like English drinking culture is weird. Again, we talked about this earlier. Like in England, people go out after work a lot, and sometimes people like get a beer like, especially on like a Thursday or Friday, like at lunchtime, and then go
Okay.
back to work after having like a beer. That's not super uncommon.
Okay.
And so it's not like super. Like, it's not like everybody does it. It's not like, oh, yeah, I remember you get a beer at lunch. But it's like if you wanted to go to a pub and grab a beer at lunch and then go back to work, like, especially on, like, a light day, like a Thursday or Friday, like, that's pretty normal.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, like, because pubs generally close at 11 and most bars and stuff, which are different than pubs, like bars like you go to go out.
Okay.
Like,
sure.
bars are more like clubs over there. And then there's obviously clubs, but, like, a bar is somewhere in between a pub and a club, essentially. So
Okay.
people will. So if you're going out to a bar, that's fine. But oftentimes you're going to a pub. The pub closes at like 11, maybe 12. So
right.
you get done with work at 6, and you got 5 hours to get fucking super turned. And like,
yeah.
so you're talking about stand up. I was watching this. I've seen a lot of Americans doing stand up in England.
Okay.
And this one American girl, she was like, I moved to England, and like, y'all vomit in the street like way too much. And I was like, and that's super true. Like I find
Really?
that, yes. Like so it's very
What?
normal for dudes to be like in suits and they're out like at pubs and they're fucking rammed. The pubs are like fucking slammed. And the guys will be outside, they'll be talking. I've like seen like these banker dudes or like these young sort of like banker guys in suits, and they're just like just like
What?
but they like
Like mid-conversation and be like, "I might
yeah.
put another shrimp on the Bobby." Yeah.
Well, so this girl was talking about how she's like, this dude's flirting with her, and he's like, hey, you're really pretty. He's like, hey, you're really, really pretty. I find you to be. Oh, one sec. And she's like, he turned around. That was nice, you know. What I mean? Like, and so he just, but like, there's a lot of puke and rallying in England, like lots of puke and rallying, and so
Interesting.
And so, but it's because like you have 5 hours, and people like to binge drink in England. So like,
Okay.
England exports like Harry Potter and James Bond. Like they make us think that they're either a bunch of magic kids in private school or a bunch of fucking James Bond like Superman
Right.
people. But like if you're like, Americans think British people are really formal and stuff. The rest of Europe thinks British people are like trash.
Drunks.
Like yeah, and they're like, it's like, have you ever been to Ibiza or Mallorca? Because a bunch of British teenagers come here every year and fucking destroy it, and then they go back to the island. They come here for summer, vomit everywhere,
Yeah.
and then they leave. Like that's like
that's funny. Just the way how Europe is set up compared to the States, right? Like
yeah.
Europe, it's just all countries connected, and you can
Yeah.
travel to all the countries via trains, or it's much more accessible to go to all
Yeah.
these separate countries. And each country has their own personality. Where here we're one country, but each state has their own personality.
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
can
yeah.
travel to all the different states.
Yeah.
And you can go to Wisconsin, and Texas is a million times different, completely obviously there's similarities, but food is different, just culture,
Oh, yeah,
the way,
yeah.
you know. But we're still one country, but just completely different. Whereas over there, it's like, I'm sure each country has their differences, right, from
Yeah,
region to
yeah,
region.
yeah.
But then you go country to country, and it's
Totally
Yeah,
different.
totally
and different
different.
language and shit. And the other thing, and also like just sidebar on Texas, everybody, the 3 places people ask me about from America
Yeah.
are New York, Los Angeles, and fucking Texas.
Texas.
They're like, what's Texas like? And or they're like, it's like, oh, it's like, you're American. You ever been to blah blah blah? It's like, I don't sound like that.
Right.
You know, like,
yeah. What's the strangest question you've been asked? Like, oh, so you're American, so
strangest.
like, or like,
Like, I don't know if there's a strange question, but people like a lot of
or
times.
association, like, oh,
Well, I
American,
mean,
so
you know, I know you're not like overtly.
you got Twinkies in your room or something. You got a
Yeah,
bunch of
just,
those.
Like, I mean, yes, people ask me stupid shit like that
Yeah.
all the time. Where they're like, or I'll be like, I'm from Wisconsin. They'll be like, I remember like people made fun of Wisconsin on this one TV show, and I'll be like, that's true. Or if they know like that 70s show or something like that. But a lot of times they're like, I remember people talking about how much Milwaukee sucked on this television show, and I'll be like, it does happen a lot. Like, but so I have to tell people, I'm like, I live in the state north of Chicago, or
okay.
like on the east, the west side of the end of the Great Lakes, right? Or that's the other way I talk about it, and then they're like, but oftentimes people say like, oh, that's really far north. Is it cold? I'm like, yeah, it's fucking freezing. Like,
Yeah.
And so that happens a lot. God, what is the stupidest question? I know you're not like overtly political on the podcast, but like for a long time, people just asked me about Trump.
Oh,
And like,
sure.
not even like, and it's just like, you know, it's like, how do you feel about Trump? It's like, bro, there's 2 ways for this conversation to go. Like,
Right.
I either love him or I fucking hate him. And
Yeah.
it's like, look at me. What do you think? And like, and that's to say, and often that would catch people off guard because like my face is a little asymmetrical. I've got a lot of freckles. I'm a little gingery. Like I look like I could be a hillbilly. Like,
Sure.
You know?
Oh yeah.
So,
You come from West Virginia?
it's like, man, I fucking love him. You know, like but that's the way it could go. It's like why do you want to talk to me about that? Like either I'm gonna say I love him and you're gonna feel weird about it, or I'm gonna say I hate him and you're gonna feel weird about it. Like it doesn't. So that was a conversation a lot, and they'll be like, "Ooh, it's going pretty bad over there, right?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, like what?"
Wasn't there like what was the thing going over Brexit?
Oh my god, yeah. That shit was super annoying.
Is that still going on?
Oh, they haven't finished it.
Yeah,
yet.
because
it's been
like
5 years.
Yeah. And that like, but was that a British London thing?
Yeah.
That,
so
okay. Yeah.
England left the European Union.
Yeah.
And it's taken them 5 years.
Because now they have to figure out a whole new economy or like a money system, right? They have to figure out their whole.
So they were never part of the euro. So they
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
So they've always kept the pound.
The pound.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Or sterling or quid or whatever. So
whatever
like
Harry Potter nonsense you want to
bullshit
throw.
Monopoly money they've got. Yeah.
Quidditch. I don't know. Gallons or whatever the fuck.
Also, like my wife was a prefect in fucking her boarding school. So,
Really?
Yeah. So like prefect is not a made up word. I thought it was.
What?
Yeah.
That's a
like,
real thing.
Yeah, common rooms are a real thing. And so like
What?
one thing I've learned about J.K. Rowling as I've been in England is that she's much less creative than I thought she was. You know what I mean?
That would be a good stand-up bit over there. That'd be great. So, just found out prefect is a real word.
Yeah.
And there's actually common rooms.
And there's head boys and head girls and like and the OWL like NEWT like fucking tests they take. Like those are like they take tests, they just have different acronym like names.
Oh shit. So she's really not as creative. She just put a little wizard touch onto everything.
She made Wizard High School. That's it, you know? Like that's all she fucking did.
She made the goth kids Slytherin.
Right,
Exactly.
Exactly.
She made the jocks Gryffindors.
Exactly.
She made the nerds Ravenclaws.
Yeah.
And
those weird kids Hufflepuff.
Yeah, those weird kids who were just like, what are you?
Like
You're
weird.
Hufflepuff.
Don't want to hang out with you. You're Hufflepuff, right? Yeah. Oh
that's so funny. I didn't realize that either. Wow.
Yeah, it's
man,
weird shit like that. Like God. Other weird. I'm trying to remember other weird things. Oh, Americans talk louder than every other country on earth. That's true. So like my
Oh.
resting speaking volume is much higher than most Brits,
Okay.
and also the other weird thing is British people like are really polite to the point that it's like annoying in the sense that like so if there's a so they call them biscuits, but they're basically like non-doughy cookies. They're sort of
Okay.
like cracker, the ones
Yeah.
you get on like airplanes and
Yeah.
stuff. Like those are
Yes.
what biscuits are.
Okay.
They're like that kind of stuff. So if there's like a biscuit left and you're like and there's a plate and people be like, "Oh, do you want the last biscuit?" And what you're supposed to do is go, "Oh, no, no, no." And then the other person's like, "Do you want it?" It's like, "Oh, no, no, no." And you're supposed to just do that for 100 years until it disappears and decays.
Disintegrates.
Yeah, exactly. But so I'm as American, I'll say this to and Tiggy's like, the first time he did this, I was like aghast. And I said, she goes, "Do you want the last biscuit?" I was like, "Do you want the last biscuit?" She goes, "Oh, no, no." And so I just picked it up and I ate it. And she's like,
"What are you doing?"
She goes, yeah, she was like, but we hadn't been dating that long, so she was like shocked, right? And then but I asked her, I was like, why is that a big deal? She's like, no, you're supposed to not fucking, you're supposed to give it back, or like sort of, or like break off half of it. And I was like, why would I do that? You told me you don't want it.
If you wanted some, you should have said something.
Exactly.
I gave you the opportunity.
It's like we live in a society. Like, say the things that you need.
You have a mouth. Are you of an adult age? Then talk like an adult and use your words.
Say you want it.
Say you want it. Or say, I'll take half, but I don't want the whole thing.
But you're not supposed to. So that's the thing is, you're not
Interesting.
supposed to like. There's a lot of like, and I know like so. It's like it is awkward if I said goodbye to you and then we started walking the same way, that's fine, right? Like
Okay.
it's like awkward, right? Like it's like we said goodbye. Well, I guess we'll walk to our cars. I'm like, I guess
Yeah.
we'll say goodbye again. And it's fine. It's not a big deal. Tigney has told me that she will walk in a different direction, even if she's not supposed to go that direction, just because if she realizes the person she said goodbye to is going away,
Yeah.
she's like, I will not walk in the same direction with them, even if I have to walk around like 3 blocks.
Oh my God.
And like, and I've asked my other British friends about it, and they're like, yeah, 100%. That's what I would do. And I was like, why?
We just do the Michael Cera from Superbad.
Yeah.
Bye, bye, bye. Just walk faster.
Just like, there's nothing. Yeah, it's like, there's a weird.
That is interesting.
It's a weird place.
They're super polite while they're puking in front of you.
Yes. Well, also there are 2 types of English person. There's like 3. There's middle class English people, and there's working class English people, and they
Okay.
are very different. So
Interesting.
middle class English people is Harry Potter. Working class English people is like Guy Ritchie movies, right? Like that's the like
Guy Ritchie.
like the like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, or like
shit. Yeah.
the like or so like Cockney dudes are like tough guys, like football fans, that kind of like
Okay.
working class English people and middle class English people are very, very different.
Oh, that leads me to another question about the
Sure.
The football over
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Have you ever been to a match?
I've been to 1 match, but it was a terrible game. It was like the third. It was like the the third best league in like the Scottish league,
Yeah.
right? And it's like
Okay.
the Hibernian Hibs, and then they're like. And it was and we went because my brother-in-law is a soccer coach. He's a huge football like head. Like he
Yeah.
watched big Man United fan.
Shout out Logan. What up, Logan?
Yeah,
we know you
Logan.
listen.
Oh, yeah,
what
we
up,
did.
buddy?
We went, and so we went, and my we were like, he wanted to go to like an actual game, and we just didn't find the time to do it. And he's,
Right.
I don't know if you've ever been on vacation with like a girlfriend or like he came and he was with my family for a long time, and he was
Yeah.
like real nice, didn't say anything, but it's like being with somebody else's family for like 2.5 weeks is like a long.
That is a long time.
And so we didn't go to the game. So my parents like, oh, we'll go to this other game, and they're like, yeah, we'll go to a soccer game, and we went to like. It would have been like going to like it'd be like, oh, we're gonna go see the Yankees. Like, oh, actually, we're gonna see the Madison Mallards.
Yeah.
Right? And so we went to the Hibernian Hibs game, and it was like it was fine.
Yeah, but it wasn't like the atmosphere of like people
Yeah.
fighting in the stands because they're that
Yeah.
passionate about their teams.
Or
It
people
was,
like shouting and like doing songs and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It wasn't that. So like
okay.
I just felt really bad for Logan because they're like, "Isn't this cool?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he was again super nice. My
Of course.
brother-in-law's a really cool
Yeah,
guy,
yeah, absolutely.
really chill. And he was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's awesome." And the whole time I was like, and my parents were like trying to be nice, and it was nice of them to do it, but ultimately I was like, this has got to be so
Yeah,
disappointing.
I'd be like, I'm in footy heaven. I'm in the Mecca.
Yeah.
I'm here,
And
and it'd be like coming to Green Bay. Someone's like, oh yeah, we'll catch a Packer game, and then you go see like an Arena League game,
right,
and
exactly.
you're like,
Pop
I mean,
Warner,
yeah, it's
right?
awesome. Like Lambeau's right there. It's super cool. We're in the shadow of it. It's football. I love football. So yeah, the quarterback just almost lost his head, and that was cool. He almost died. Like, oh, and then they made that touchdown catch that guy made. Sick. But it's like, I don't know who William St. Stevens is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, who the fuck?
And it wasn't even that good at like football, to be honest. It was like it wasn't as good as like D1 Madison soccer, right?
Okay.
That type of thing. So it was, I mean, so I've been to that game, but I have a friend of mine moved to New Zealand. This guy I met, me and my wife met on this like vacation we did, and he was from London, and he was moving to New Zealand with his girlfriend. And he's like, yeah. I was like, so it's like, he's like, my mom and I have season tickets to Arsenal. And I was like, that's cool. And I was like, and she goes to every fucking game. And I was like, it's like, that's really cool. I was like, who did she go? She's like, she went with me. And I used to go to most of the games, but now like, I don't know if she has anybody to go with. And I was like, that's cool. It's like, so could I go to an Arsenal game? And he's like, if you want to go with like a little Jewish lady and you want to go to an Arsenal game, sure. Like we probably could. I was like, I never hit him up on it. I regret not doing it. But
That would
like,
have been cool.
yeah, but it's so I got to go to an English football game, but like none of my friends are really into soccer over there. They're more like rugby. This is another thing. Rugby is generally the rich kid sport, and then and soccer is the poor kid sport. Like
interesting.
If you're, it's not 100%, but like oftentimes like rugby is the posh sport, the upper class sport, and then
more medical bills. You gotta.
I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's this whole thing in like rugby. They're like, oh, you respect the ref and that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, yeah, it's because you've always had amazing relationships with authority.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the like. She's always been like, hey, you own stuff, so do I. Amazing. Like,
Right.
High five. Right.
Sir, don't do that. Okay, no problem, mate. Sure. Keep
Sure.
moving along.
Well,
Yep.
see you at the next.
Pass it backwards to my other teammate.
Rule the world party.
Right, yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, so.
Okay.
But, all right.
Interesting.
So what do you? So this is basically the same. I'm gonna rate. So just
Oh
going.
yeah,
back
we
to
gotta
beer,
rate this yet.
I'm gonna rate this
I already finished mine.
exactly the same as the other beer because I was like
7.75.
Yeah, no. As the Utopia, maybe a
7
little less. I'm gonna do 7.2 because it's exactly the fucking same.
7.2. All right. Whoops. See, I think I might have given the EPA or EIPA a little bit too high,
Gotcha.
but this full calorie a full calorie 7.2, no
Gotcha.
less. Yeah, that was from you. I'm gonna. I really like all these beers. Honestly,
Yeah, they're really drinkable, easy.
very drinkable is the best way to describe them. Super drinkable. I'm actually gonna give this one a probably 7.7. Right there.
Solid, awesome.
Really enjoyed those beers.
Yeah.
Really good.
So we're like almost at an hour and a half. I feel like we can cut this short whenever you want. We can
Yeah,
do one more beer. We can cut it off whatever you want.
What are you thinking? How many more beers how many more beers are in there?
There's still 4 beers in there, but I'm leaving those for you guys to do other times when
Okay.
you want to, and just like look them up and I want Carl to be able to, because I bought enough beer to like for 3 of us to be able to like go drive somewhere after this.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So for 3 people, that's possible.
Right.
With 6 beers, right? With 2
Oh, yeah.
people, it's not possible.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so we can do one more. Probably not the super strong one.
Right.
Or we can just cut it and you guys can, because I've had most of those in there. So like if you guys want to try those out.
Is there anything else you wanted to like talk about? Is there anything you wanted to get into or say or
well, now that you mention it, I'd like to talk to you about Jesus Christ.
Right. Has anyone ever talked to you about Jesus Christ?
Oh,
your
shit,
Lord and Savior?
I had our grandfather is a very Catholic man, and I respect religion, and I'm not a dickhead about it, right? But there's these guys. I would always talk to like the Christian kids on campus. They'd have these like talk to a Christian booth, and I'd always talk to them. And I'd go up and talk to them. And I remember one time when I was in Minneapolis when I was going to college there. This dude comes up to me. They knock on my door and they're like, "Hey man, we're from the Campus Christian Network and we're wondering if you want to talk about God." And I'm always down to like talk about like that kind of stuff. Like if a scammer calls me on the phone, I will answer it and I will talk to them and like make jokes and stuff. Always like. I've talked to scammers and been like, let me find my card. Like talk like an old
dude,
person.
that's so fun. I don't have the quick witted. I'm always like, nope, sorry, wrong number, bye, and hang up super quick.
Well, so the best thing to do is just pretend to be old and be like, they're like, oh, my car's gonna get, my insurance is out, okay, and you gotta do it real subtly, and then you pull out your card and you're like, okay, let me read the card number. It's 407, and do your card number until you get to the last 8 digits and then make something up.
Yeah.
So because then it's like, because they think it's a real card as they're going through and you're like 4732865 472, and then they're like, oh, it's like, I'm sorry, so the card didn't work. Like, oh, let me try again. And you just keep changing it a little bit.
Oh man, that's funny.
And then once you get to the end, then you shout at them like, it's like, don't waste time and just try to steal old people's money, you piece of shit. And then I've literally had guys call me back and they'd be like, you're a piece of shit, fuck you. And I'm like, cool. So I'm glad
I'm not the one calling strangers, guy. Bye.
Right, exactly. But but not that I have the same attitude with a Christian youth group or whatever, but I'm down to clown and talk about Jesus, and I'm gonna ask you like if you really think these things, and then they're like, and I was like, so they said to me, they said, do you want to get? It's like so. I was like, so why do I need Jesus to get to heaven? And the sense they're like, okay, so this is how you think about it, like. You're a good swimmer, right? And I'm like, sure. And they're like, but you couldn't swim across the ocean. And I was like, yes. And then they're like, that's true. And they're like, okay, so Jesus is like the boat to get you across the ocean. So like, there's a bunch of sin, and that sin is the ocean. And you might be a good swimmer, and you might be able to get pretty far, but you need Jesus, and he's like the boat. And I'm like, that's cool.
Why am I swimming across the ocean?
Well, no, there's that. But my immediate question was like, so that boat, right? There's no gay people on that boat, right? No,
right? Yeah,
that's a straight couple only cruise, correct?
Right.
And they're like, well, and I'm like, no, are there gay people on the boat?
Right.
And I was like,
no, the gay people drown in sin, JD.
Right.
Of course. What are you talking about?
We've thrown them off the boat. We discovered
they couldn't. The boat is at a distinct location, and if you can swim out to that location, then it will take you the rest of the way. But if you drowned in sin before you get to that location, well, then I guess you're going right to hell.
Exactly. It's like, so taking it in the butt is like having lead weights.
Wearing lead flippers is taking it up the butt.
Exactly.
You might as well be wearing lead
straight
flippers.
or gay, whatever it is. That's your that's the devil's hole, and that's how he accesses you. That's the so like. But I'd have these conversations where I'd be like, "There's no gay people on that boat." I was like, "Oh, so what if I had an abortion? Can I get it back on the boat?" And they're like, "No, this sort of thing." I'm like, "See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you're not interested in you're not interested in forgive my sin. You want to do any of this shit. You're just like, you're here to like talk to me about God. You've never actually thought about it." And I remember they're like, "So the devil has a sin." Is like gives you sin and this kind of stuff. And I've we were raised Catholic. I thought about God a lot.
Yeah.
And I've thought about him or her or it or whatever. They a shitload.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so they're like, it's like, so what about the devil? Are you worried about the devil? And I said to this guy once, I was like, do you understand that if God snapped his fingers, the devil would die? And they're like, and it could go like this, and Satan would disappear. And I was asking him, I was like, so why does Satan exist? And they're like, and you could see like their brains sort of just sort of start to fry, and because there's not a good answer to that,
right?
And or other like very very simple things like, can God create a rock that God cannot lift? And when you're super dogmatic about God being omniscient, omnibenevolent, all that kind of stuff, no, the answer is no. And then the answer is like, or yes, or I don't know, and so there's all these like, so when you're like, God is a place, Jesus is a man. And like, or God is a person, Jesus is a man. You're going to be conscious. You're going to talk to your grandparents when you go to heaven. And I'm like, about what? Why? Like, for like, you're not like, if you're going to heaven, you're not going to be a conscious person when you go there, because if heaven is a place, right? That you can go and exist. I don't know if you've ever done anything. Think of the thing that you like to do the most, like in your life, and living your life the best. Now imagine that for eternity.
Right.
So at a certain point, being Max is going to be boring. It's going to
Sure.
stop being interesting. So like, because you're going to have done everything because it's eternity.
Yeah.
It's forever. And so
Yeah.
it's like, and so people are like, I'm going to talk to my grandpa. It's like, your grandpa's not going to want to talk to you because if he's content to be there, like I think about my grandpa, Paul, who's dead. And I was like, Paul, let's talk. And he's like, come on, man. I'm having like a bajillion orgasms and like the best meal I've ever had because I'm staring at this white light that makes me feel like everything's okay and I never have to feel anything bad ever again. So like, please stop reminding me that I'm a person because I don't want to talk to you.
And I was never even associated with that earthly dwelling that I was in. Yeah.
And so when people have these really, I'm not offended if you are a Christian. I'm not offended if you believe in Buddha. I'm not offended if you believe in like that. Like we're all gonna go to like Margaritaville when we die.
Yeah.
Like, but what I'm offended by is like if you've never taken the time to like actually think about God and think about what that means to you and what it is personally, or if it's just a feeling. So if we have a conversation and you're like, I believe this because it makes me feel this way and I had this experience, blah, 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 and I just have this like innate feeling. Like I can respect that. And I can respect you wanting people. Like, I almost get offended if evangelical Christians don't come to my door and talk to me because it's like, you're just fine with, like, people dying and being tortured for forever. If I thought that was real, I would go to people.
That's what they genuinely believe.
Yeah,
so.
and so it's like, I'm happy that you want to save me from a thing that you think might be the worst thing ever.
Right.
So, like, that's a compliment to me. But, like, if you actually haven't thought about it, if you don't think about it, you don't have an actual relationship with, like, what it means to be God, and you're just sort of like, I don't want to say drinking the Kool-Aid, but you're just sort of like going along with stuff and like and you feel like indoctrinated, then like I feel it's partially my duty to, not duty, but it's like you don't actually know anything about this.
Right.
You've never actually if you're trying to convert me to something that I've thought more than you about and I've thought about it a lot, then that's not offensive, but it's just like I kind of want you to feel bad.
Yeah,
you know, like.
Well, that's one of the we were talking. Like I went to Catholic school, and one of the things that always like stood out to me was that they would be like, "Oh, this story is true," and this one is like, you got to think it like a metaphor. But then this one is 100%. This actually happened, but then this one's a metaphor. This one is supposed to teach you something, but this one's true, and it is supposed to teach you something. It's just not a metaphor, but it did happen. But then, okay, it's true, but then parts of it are metaphors, but most of it is true. But then, like, when he did this thing, that's just the metaphor. But you're like, okay, what? Like, what? This is what we're deciding our whole lives on? Our every waking, like, some people's every waking moment is spent dedicating themselves to a religion, and if that is what's in your heart and you honestly want to spend your life like that, then who am I to tell you like no? But if like for me, when I stop and think about it, it's like I can't spend my I think too much about it, and it gets too convoluted and too confusing. Or like I remember like the first time learning about other religions, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, what? So what? So wait, hold on. So if I don't believe this the right way, I'll go to hell. But they don't even believe this at all. Do they go to? Do they go to my hell and I go to their? But then I'm in my heaven, but I'm in their hell.
Are there two hells?
Am I in? How many hells and heavens are there?
Exactly.
I just remembered thinking like, this is so. Like you accept it for so long, but then you get to a point where you grow up and you're like, or you maybe think of why you break something down. You just keep asking yourself why, and you're like, why do I study this or what even? And you get to a point with religion sometimes where it's like, we don't even really know where it came. We're just hoping that it came. One of them came from the right person.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Everyone's just hoping one of them is the good, like the right one.
But they're also, the explanations are so simplistic too, in the sense that like it's just like the universe is very complicated. The whole thing is very complicated. So like for religion to be like, oh, I had a child and I sent him to Earth to die for your bad stuff, and he came out, and it's like that's too. So I saw this on the internet once. It was like, it's like Christianity, the idea that the zombie son. The zombie carpenter son of a sky magician will make you live forever if you telepathically send him your allegiance for your whole life. And you know, like it's like,
oh my god, yeah, you can do that with every religion,
exactly.
and that's the thing. It's like you can break everyone down to its simplest form of like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And so like for me, it's like, it's not that I don't think that there's anything or anything like that. I don't really have an opinion on that. But the thing is, like, it's that. Oh, I saw an awesome T-shirt. I keep seeing like things like God is dope. Or Jesus. I saw a shirt that says God is dope, and I was like, that is a fucking deep T-shirt, because it's like, God. Does it mean God is awesome? Does it mean God is heroin, like he's an addiction, or is it like God is dumb? Like, there's so many meanings to that. But the other thing is, like, I don't know if
yeah,
I don't know if you have this, but as raised Catholic, there's always in the back of my mind, whenever I'm talking to anybody, I'm always thinking, and we're talking about religion, or someone's like, "Oh, you shouldn't be Christian. Like, it's crazy to believe those sorts of things." I'm like, "You're right. It is crazy to believe that these sort of thing, but also maybe you're the devil." Like,
right.
you know, like
But also, I have to keep my guard up around you, because fuck, you might drag me down to the eternal fires of hell.
But
if
like,
I don't.
that never goes away.
Right,
And it's like,
it's the weirdest thing.
the
yeah.
most I've gotten away from it a ton, but there's always this tiny little thing of like, but maybe.
Or like anything you do, it's like, well, technically this is the wrong thing to do right now, but I want to do it. And you're like, well, I guess I might just go to hell then. And you're like, but why? I shouldn't. You can't live like.
You can't live like that.
Especially if you. I feel like you can if you are 100% devoted.
Yeah.
But and then God, live your life that way, But like for someone like me who like I stop and think about everything, like I overthink, overanalyze everything. Like I can't. Otherwise, I'll just be I'll just sit on a couch all day and like just with my hands folded, like praying. I'll just do that for 20 hours. Otherwise, I will feel like a piece of shit if I don't do that. So like, yeah, I totally get that. Of like, you have to just to live your life and not feel guilty 24/7. You almost have to like distance yourself or find your own religion. Almost find your own sense of. All right, my God is just the thing that created everything. I don't know if he sent down a sun or not. I don't know what. I don't know if he had a specific plan for Earth or not. But I think there's something out there that created the whole universe, the whole all of that. Something's out there, and maybe we do answer to something or whatever. But it's like, to me, it's almost like I personally can't just follow one book and be like, this is my book, this is the only book for me, and this is what I have to live my life by. I personally can't. It's just too rigid, and it makes you, because I like to think and explore like different avenues of thought, or like question different things, and like look at something and really, like we were talking, ask why, like break down like why. Is this the book? Why? And you go, and you break it down farther and farther until you get to the point where you're like, this isn't the book, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You get to a point where you're like, that's okay. Well, then this isn't the only thing out there, right? There's
and you get people like my mom and our grandpa and a lot of our relatives who are still pretty Catholic, where it's like they're like, I'm Catholic, I believe this, I don't think other people are going to hell. This is just like a version of sort of part of God that I got, and that kind of stuff. And then the other thing too is like, you got to remember that like there are a lot of gospels that did not make it into the Bible, and people are like, it's the book of God, he wrote it, and it's like, we didn't fucking edit it, like,
right? Yeah,
like,
exactly. That's so true.
And
so true.
And also like Jesus was a revolutionary guy. He got killed, and then people sort of got to do whatever they wanted. And Peter and Paul went to Rome, and so they had to write a narrative of Jesus that was like palatable to Romans.
Sure.
So emphasizing that he was a revolutionary dude who wanted everybody to be able to access God, and that like structures of authority were stupid, because that's kind of what he was like, because he was responding to a version of Judea where there was one temple in the whole country where God lived. There was one temple, and they controlled the entrance to that temple, and you had to walk into that temple with a bunch of like pure white sheep and animals to sacrifice, and you had to pay a toll to get into that temple, and otherwise you would have died. Like your harvest was going to be shitty. So
Yeah.
you had to come across the country with your best animals. You had to herd them across country, and you got to the middle of the temple, and they're like, "Hey, we will accept this animal. We'll sacrifice it to God. Throw it in this room where God pees into the world." And that's like this
Yeah.
is the and this is the temple where all the holiness pours into the world. It's the holiest of holes, and it's and so Jesus was like, "No, that's stupid. I'm God's son. You're God's son. Everybody's God. Everybody's got it in them. You can heal each other. Everything's fine. Like this is
Yeah.
all, like all this shit. Like, and then all the other stuff, like the dying on the cross, the resurrection, all these sorts of things. These are tropes that are in a lot of other religions. They're in a lot of other things. And part of it is because they weren't writing a history book. They're writing a myth.
Mm-hmm.
They're writing a myth so that people would believe that they had God within them, right? And that everybody had God within them. So they were writing this myth to give to people, and they had to sell it. And part of the way that they sold it to Romans was not, oh, I'm a holy person reacting to these other holy people who suck. They were like, no, he's God's son. He's a chosen person. He heals everybody, that kind of stuff. So they were constructing and taking parts of Jesus's life that were palatable to the people they're trying to sell it to. It's like the Bible is like the world's first like initial marketing campaign. And so it's not that Jesus is invaluable or any of this stuff is like that it might not be the one religion or all that kind of shit. It's just that like you got to if you take Jesus as the end all be all, you take the sort of the way Jesus is handed down to you from different structures and stuff. You're not going to think about that. You're not going to like have this idea of like, oh, maybe what Jesus was is a little different, and what has been told, what we think about it is different. And so back, just sort of bring it back around to these sort of like initial conversation. If you haven't thought about that kind of stuff and you're coming up to me and like, this is part of the reason I like to have these conversations with very Christian people, is because like oftentimes they assume that I'm not somebody who knows these things about God or Jesus. And then we'll have these conversations. I'll be like, well, what do you think about this? What about the fact that James might have been Jesus's brother, and then he died in a revolution several years after Jesus in an uprising, and the Romans killed him. And then the narrative of Jesus was then passed to Peter and Paul, who lived in Rome. They were trying to sell Jesus to the Romans, and they're usually like, what? And like, you know.
Well, that's just a metaphor
right,
for
exactly. And that's the answer. They're like, well, I believe in Jesus. It's like, great. I believe in the tooth fairy. Like,
and it's, there's a lot. I mean, dude, especially like kind of like us growing up with it, you think about it so much that you have so many opinions and thoughts, and it's like, it's just you get to a point where like sometimes I'll be like super convinced, like, okay, this is it, like I've got it, this is what religion is all about, and this is how I need to view it and instill it and take aspects of it and put it in my life. But then other times I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. So it's because like it's just one of the, it's so captivating, and like it's nice. It's a nice feeling. You want to believe in that like one person that when you die you'll see, and they'll save you, and everything will be great as long as you just give your life to them, and that is a good comforting feeling and thought. But when you like stop and really break it down and think about it on a human level, like it gets overwhelming, and you just, I don't know. You're like, I don't know, man. It's we're gonna find out one day, aren't we?
Exactly. But it's also like, Jesus has been great in some ways, but a lot of times, like I'm sure you're the same. Like I've had a lot of negative relationships with that shit, and so it's not all sunshine, candy, and rainbows. It's a lot like it's, and so it's that thing of like, but again, it's just going back to that thing about like when people talk to you about God, it's like, I've thought about it, I made a decision based on how I feel about it and how it's affected me in my life. And you're coming up to me and assuming that like I've never read the Word of God, never had any of these interactions, and it's like, bro, I've thought about this probably more than you have. And it's just, It's I don't know. It's fun.
And you thought about it more outside the box because when
Exactly.
you're so like, nope, this is it. This is how I believe it. This is how it is. You don't. There's no time to think outside the box. There's
Yeah.
no because when you do that, you start getting into what our conversations here. It's
Yeah.
like, hey man,
Yeah.
wait a minute, wait a minute, guy. Hey, who wrote this?
Yeah.
How long ago? Has it been It hasn't been What are we doing here?
Where's the Twitter blue check?
Yeah.
mark?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No, but
oh,
dude, it's I totally get it, and it's
it's crazy shit.
fun stuff, dude. I could honestly sit and talk like I could sit and talk about religion and theories on religion and what all that shit for another like hour, 2 hours.
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
agree.
we're on an hour and 45 here,
Yeah,
man.
that's a good-
This is
that's a good
good,
cutoff. Yeah.
good place to get out of here.
Yeah.
Cut it off. So, dude, thank you so much for bringing the beer.
Yeah, of course, man.
From across the pond over there, huh? Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, from Whitechapel, London.
Yep.
Whitechapel, London. We had Utopian Brewery, their British lager. We had May Provisions, EIPA, and we had the Augustiner Brew, Munich, Edelstoff. And they were all delicious.
yeah, for sure.
So thank you for bringing those. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Hopefully we can, maybe figure out some type of like Skype call or some type of call in.
For sure.
So we can get all three of us, me, you, and
Yeah,
Carl.
yeah, for sure.
Excuse me, that was a good Edelstoff. Yeah, so thanks for coming in, man, and seeing
Yeah,
the
man.
stew. Appreciate it. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening to this Across the Pond Beer of the Week segment.